Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Clutch Takes, a channel where we talk about all things going on in the NBA with a focus on our favorite team, the Toronto Raptors. Now, it's been a while since we last posted, around 2 weeks, so we wanted to come at you guys with a banger. So I'm back with our returning guest, JJ Buckets, and we've collabed to talk about Bradley Beal, how he possibly would want out, how he would fit on the Raptors, and what it would take to land him. Now, we have trade packages and everything, so if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to us at Clutch Takes, and subscribe to JJ Buckets as well. Enjoy the video. Alright guys, welcome back to Clutch Takes. I'm here with my good friend JJ Buckets.
What
Today
up?
we're gonna be talking about Bradley Beal. Save this man, free this man, find a way to get him on the Raptors.
Oh man, yeah, it's time, isn't it? Like, I feel so bad for Bradley Beal in Washington. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have the worst record in basketball right now, and like the dude is obviously frustrated. Like they literally asked him, it's just like if he's frustrated, he just replied to them, "Is the sky blue?" And I was like, oh, I'm like Bradley.
Yeah. Like them and the Timberwolves, I think, are like the worst teams right now. And I've heard Bradley Beal say he wants to stay in Washington. I'm like, man, it's okay to say you can demand a trade.
He's one of like, I think it's funny because obviously in the modern era of like player movement, he's kind of the one, or like, I don't want to say the one guy, but like one of the few guys that's, I don't want to say a superstar, but like a star player that's just wants to stick it out and make it work. But I
It's
think,
just not going to happen.
yeah, I feel like if you're Bradley Beal, you want to know when to cut your losses, and I think right now is the time. I don't ever see it working for him in Washington. If he wants to win a ring, I think he needs to move on.
Yeah, I think it's time to move on. Washington, they don't look like they're getting better anytime soon. They're kind of stuck with Westbrook now, to be honest, like a declining, aging Westbrook.
Yeah,
And a lot of their young players, it's hard to tell because a lot of them got hit with the COVID protocols. But like, I don't know, like Hachimura, Denny Avdija, like they have some good young pieces. It's just like Bradley Beal said, like they can't guard a parked car.
honestly, that might be just one of the funniest NBA quotes in just a really long time. But it's true though. Like their team defense is awful. And don't get me wrong, Bradley Beal is 100% a part of that. He is not playing great defense whatsoever. But I feel like that's partly just because of like the huge offensive load that he's carrying for that team. It's just he does not have any energy left to play defense, and it shows. Like that defense, it's bad. It's bad. I don't think they have a
Yeah.
single defender on that team that I look at and I'm like, yeah, you're a plus defender. Like you're a positive on that end of the court.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people say like Scott Brooks, their coach, should be fired too. Like, I don't know why he's still there. Like, I don't know if they're like embracing the tank or something. Someone said like it was kind of funny when they said Bradley Beal still wants to stay in Washington. It's like, oh, Bradley Beal must really like Cade Cunningham.
Um, Honestly, Cunningham and Beal would be a nasty duo in my opinion. But like, man, by the time Cunningham's at his best, Bradley Beal is going to be like well into his 30s. So
Yeah.
I don't
With
know.
this Raptor season, I'm watching more prospect highlights than ever because like you never know if we're gonna be in that situation. Jalen Suggs also looks pretty nasty.
I think I mean I've talked about this like privately before. I don't know if I've ever really mentioned it on videos, but I'm such a huge fan of this draft class. I think there's so many players this season that like are gonna be game changers once they arrive in the NBA. I mean, especially if you're comparing it to like just the 2020 draft class, like this one seems like it's just gonna be so much better. And if there was ever a season that I'd be okay with the Raptors being bad, this might be it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, if they want to start winning again, like Beal in the past has been open to other destinations, and Toronto, from what I remember, was actually one of the teams that he listed off. So if Masai was going to make a move, it seems like now's the time, and it seems like Beal might be the guy.
Yeah, Masai, he never you never know what he's gonna do. He always manages to pull off something good.
Mhm.
So I think it's time that we get into the what you guys all been waiting for. We both have our own trade proposals through the trusty trade machine. And JJ, let's see yours first, and we'll go back and forth.
All right. So I'm going to preface, my kind of like trade packages or like what I would want to see happen with the fact that, okay, let me start it off here actually. I think Bradley Beal's trade value is going to be less than, some of the other recent like big names that have been moved. I don't think he's worth the haul that James Harden just got. And honestly, I didn't even think they got that great of a haul considering Harden is as good as he is. But I don't think he's worth a Harden level of haul. I don't think he's even worth PG's level of, you know, assets that was given up for him. I think he's going to be below that, and I think that serves the Raptors well. But that being said, ideally in these scenarios, I'd like I'd like to see the Raptors hold on to Pascal Siakam because I think we've seen in the past that he can be a great second star, and I would actually be really excited for a duo of Pascal and Bradley Beal. So naturally, the other thing here is that obviously there's still a bunch of trade restrictions on a lot of these Raptors players because they either signed
Yeah.
contracts or stuff like that. But I'm gonna go back to the well with this one, and people hate me for this constantly, but Kyle Lowry's the name. Kyle Lowry is the name that is going to be in these packages, and obviously he's a legacy player for the Raptors, and fans don't want to see him go, but you know
Mhm.
he's just the name that works financially in most of these trade packages. If you want to hold on to Pascal, which in my scenarios at least I would. So with all that rambling being said, I'm going to kick things off and get you to my first trade package here. And this is the one I'm actually really excited about. So in this trade, it's going to be JJ Redick and Bradley Beal coming to the Raptors. Norman Powell, Lonzo Ball, and 3 first rounders are going to the Wizards, and the Pelicans get Kyle Lowry. There's layers to why I like this deal. I think for the Raptors, you obviously get Bradley Beal, which immediately slots into kind of like your first star role. And I think he's a great, addition to the shooting guard spot. And I think Freddie gets a chance to slide over to the point guard spot, play his natural position. That's a great backcourt duo. Plus, you get JJ Redick, who can maybe help some of the defensive woes in terms of, just having some consistent scoring on there every time from a guy like JJ. I'd be a huge fan of that. If you're the Wizards, you get Norman Powell. I don't know why he's listed as a 2-year contract on here. I could have sworn he was a 1-year deal. As far as yeah, as,
He has this year and then next year, and then he has a player option.
okay.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, Norm has been relatively good this season, especially in the starting lineup. So you get a guy that can at least, I guess, be at the forefront of your team while you're bad. And then you get,
Or you could flip him.
or you could flip him. I completely agree with you. And then after that, Lonzo Ball, I know a lot of people have given up on him, but if the Wizards look at him and they still see a player that they can turn into a star, I think that's a prospect you can be really excited about. You obviously get the 3 picks as well. And if you're the Pelicans, you get a great veteran leader like Kyle Lowry that can help Brandon Ingram and Zion really continue to develop and be just a great just be a guy that can really help take them to the next level and maybe even push the Pelicans to be, one of like the last playoff seeds this season.
Yeah, I think this trade is pretty good. I feel like Raptors fans in the comments are gonna be like, we don't need guards. Like they're gonna go on the center train, but the two things that I've been consistent with is like, yeah, we do need a center, although Baines is picking it up a bit recently,
Yeah,
I must say. It's still a need, but I would say the two biggest needs is still the center position and a closer. And Bradley Beal gives you just that.
mm-hmm.
The one thing I would say about JJ Redick's fit is that what we've seen from Nick Nurse, if you can like shoot the three and play defense, he'll get you in the lineup. Especially, he even said early in the season, like we can't keep throwing out all these shooting guards. That's why like Matt Thomas has been getting like zilch minutes. Um, JJ Redick is obviously a more experienced player. Um, so he might get some love there, but I'm not sure how much Nick Nurse would like him. But yeah, obviously I would like to trade for the Raptors though.
Mhm. I mean, worst case scenario, if Redick's not somebody you're interested in, you could easily package off Redick to send him to Washington as well, just to kind of sweeten the trade. I think I like JJ. I mean, obviously he's had a bit of a tough start, I guess, to the season. Like he hasn't been, you know, at this, version of himself that he has been in previous years. But at the same time, I think on a I'll get to that part in a second, but on a team that's hoping to win, like the Raptors, I think JJ would probably be a better fit. And, he's not a great defender by any means, but at least he's giving consistent defensive effort on that end. And he's, like I said, he's scoring punch, he's 3-point shooting. I know the whole Matt Thomas isn't getting minutes thing. JJ Redick is Matt Thomas on steroids. So maybe it works
That's
in that
true.
regard. All right. Do you want to hop into the first trade you got here? Holy hell, that is a lot of. Oh, okay, you know what? At first, I was like, man, that is a lot of picks, and then I saw they were actually pick swaps, and I'm like, okay, it's not as bad.
Okay, so going off the Kyle Lowry theme, again, Kyle Lowry is my favorite player and favorite Raptor of all time. This is not Kyle Lowry slander. But yeah, Kyle Lowry, obviously a great player, but his tenure with the Raptors seems to be coming to a close. And he would be an asset. Like when I was thinking of these trades, I immediately thought of the two most recent big deals we've seen: Drew Holiday's trade and James Harden's trade. So in the Drew Holiday trade, it was 2 firsts and 2 pick swaps. And then in the James Harden trade, it was 3 firsts and 4 pick swaps. So when I was thinking of Bradley Beal, I think I even heard this before. It'd be probably around something in the middle of those two guys, because he's better than Drew Holiday, but he's not as good as James Harden. So having that said, I gave the Washington Wizards 2 firsts, the 2021 and 2023, and 3 pick swaps. And they can do whatever Kyle Lowry if they want to flip him, which they easily could. Or if they want to keep him, I guess. I wouldn't keep him. I would flip him, to be honest. But yeah, I feel like this is a good trade for the Raptors. Lowry's probably going to leave anyway. So you get a star to help supplement our core that's been playing really well.
Mm-hmm. I don't hate this deal. My one thing, when I was like putting together these trades, I almost felt like there always needed to be a third team involved, because as much as Kyle Lowry, could be an asset to Washington, where, in terms of like player mentorship, he could help bring some of those young guys along. If he goes to Washington and, that's just where he's going to stay, there's no chance in hell he's staying after the season. So really, they're just taking an expiring contract.
It's more the picks that's the value.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely think it's a good haul of picks. I just don't. Yeah, my own personal thing is I just don't know how excited the Wizards would be to get Kyle Lowry. I feel like they'd rather have like a young player in this deal that like they could build around. But it's a good package, and I think it's a good draft pick compensation. I'll definitely give you that.
I was sort of thinking because Houston, right? When we first heard the deal, they're like, oh, they're getting LeVert, a young player to build around, and then all these picks.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turns out like they got Oladipo and all the picks.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of, and the Rockets are kind of a team in transition as well. We don't really know if they're going for it or going younger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of what I thought. Like Lowry is the Oladipo of the trade, and he can be flipped because Oladipo still might get flipped. You never know.
I hear you, but
He's a free agent.
Yeah, but Oladipo is also like what, 27, 20, something around that range. Like he's definitely a lot younger than Kyle. That's like if you still want to hold on to him, if you're
Well,
obviously
they have to sign him though.
true. That'll actually be an interesting scenario to see if they're going to pay out. I see what you're going for in terms of the comparison. And again, worst case scenario, Washington clears up 30 million in cap space if Lowry just walks and they hold on to him all season. So it'd be interesting for sure.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
All right. I'm not going to lie to you. The the first package that I showed you is definitely the one I'm like the most excited about. I can see some of these other packages happening, but I think there's slightly more of a long shot type of scenario. But we'll get into it anyways. So this one here, you got another 3-team trade. If you're the Raptors here, it's just Beal straight up, which honestly I think is more than enough if you're the Raptors. You're giving up Kyle Lowry, you're going to give up a couple of picks, and you're going to give up Malachi Flynn. But at the end of the day, I do think Beal is worth it in terms of what he can do for the Raptors, especially like we talked about closing games in particular. Like Beal would help flip like a lot of results from L's to W's, I think, if he was on the team. If you're the Wizards, you get a couple of expiring contracts, which I think is great. And then you get like a plethora of young guys that maybe outside of Tyrese Maxey isn't immediately like super exciting. But I think between Thibault, Maxey, and Malachi Flynn, plus the 2 extra picks, I think the Wizards are making out of this great. And if you're the Sixers, you get Kyle Lowry, a player to add to your core now. And your team that's obviously, if you're the Sixers, your team that's obviously competing for a championship this season. And I think Kyle Lowry only helps bring you closer to that goal.
Yeah, I sent you it. I didn't put it as one of my trades, but Kyle Lowry would obviously be a great fit in Philadelphia. He's from there. They need his leadership to get over the top. I think it's a great ad for Philly. I feel like this package is decent. I remember when Bradley Beal was first on the market, like last year, before they called off trade talks. From the Raptors originally, they wanted Van Vliet and OG in picks, or it was Van Vliet and Siakam in picks. It was either one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously looking for someone who's a star or a young potential star. This is like taking more the long road. So it could still be appealing, but I'm not sure if we've seen enough from the young players, like Thibault, Maxey, and Flynn. So far, they could be like useful players, but I'm not sure if it would be enough.
I feel like
maybe.
I get what you're saying. I do. Maybe I'm just a little higher on Tyrese Maxey than most people. I do think he kind of has that potential, especially considering in Washington, he would be one of like the featured scorers and he would get every opportunity to shoot the ball if he wanted it. I think Maxey for me is the one that like really brings it home in terms of these young players. I think Thibault is exciting as well. Obviously, we haven't seen much from Malachi Flynn in the regular season because Nurse just doesn't trust him enough right now to come off that bench. But for me, Maxey is the thing that like brings us home for the Wizards. I think he's good enough to be like that big kind of young asset, but yeah, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just higher on him than most.
Well, I feel like he could, but he hasn't like proven it yet because he hasn't had the opportunity. So it's more of a risk. Like he could, but he's obviously being blocked right now because Philly has like Simmons, Embiid, Harris. He's not getting as many shots. But it definitely could. There's potential.
All right, let's move on to your next one. What do you have? Okay.
So this is my second trade. Basically, I've lessened the picks and added a better player in Pascal Siakam. Like JJ said, you wouldn't really want to move Siakam, but at the same time, it's Bradley Beal, and like these players don't become on the market that often, and if he's available, you kind of have to take a chance at it. So yeah, I gave them a first round pick and two pick swaps to go along with Pascal Siakam.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I feel like it gives them a young player to build around. If Siakam can bounce back to his second All NBA status, I feel like this would be a huge trade for the Wizards and can definitely get them back on the right track.
Hmm. I do like this, like the deal for Washington. I think Siakam is obviously a good player, and obviously we agree that it's like in a perfect world you hold on to Siakam, but if you really see Beal as that much better than Pascal, which I think a lot of people do right now, this is a trade that could be worth it. My only kind of caveat with this trade is, I mean, obviously you can slot Chris Boucher into the starting four spot. That's not really an issue. But I think after, like, if this deal gets done, you almost need one more trade after that because,
Yeah, you'd have to move Kyle Lowry.
yeah, or even like somebody like Norman Powell or something. Listen,
Yeah,
it's like at this point, we are, like you said earlier in the video, we have Bradley Beal coming in, which is yet another guard, and then you're losing somebody from the front court like Pascal. Like I like this trade, but if you're doing this trade, you need to make another move where you go and get somebody that can play the 4 and the 5 spot.
yeah. My idea behind this would it probably cause like a snowball effect, like you said. And once we deal Siakam, Boucher would go to the four, his natural position.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have to obviously move out a guard. Either that be for a center or be for draft picks, young players. Um, yeah, it just cause like a snowball effect. And my next trade coming up is like a better way, a more clear way
Okay.
that, yeah, 3-team trade.
All right. I'll tell you right now, all of my trades are 3-team trades. So I got one more coming up here, and I'm going to be completely transparent with the fact that I think this is the one I'm the least excited about, and I think this is the one that's the least likely. But I think there's some rationale as to why it could happen. I'm just going to go into it. So it's going to be Clippers, Wizards, and Raptors. So the Raptors are getting Marcus Morris and Bradley Beal in this trade. I'm not going to get super into it. I've talked about Bradley Beal a lot already, but like Marcus Morris is a good shot creator, can give you a little bit of presence on the wing slash maybe even as a small ball five if you really wanted it. For the Wizards, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not super excited about this haul. Maybe you could argue throw in a couple of other picks from the Raptors, probably because realistically you need it.
The Clippers have like no assets. Like it's hard.
Yeah, it's like on one hand, I wanted to find a way to get Kyle to LA because obviously, Kawhi,
Perfect fit.
yeah, it's a great fit. He definitely fills a need for that team, and Lord knows Kawhi is trying to assemble the Raptors in LA anyway, so I thought I'd give him another one. But yeah, looking back at this again, if I were to revise this, I would want to throw in more draft assets for the Wizards. Terrence Davis and Luke Kennard are both good young players to be excited about. Patrick Beverly, I don't know. I get it. Like, I wouldn't really call him a leader, but he's somebody that gives your team like a good work hard attitude, I guess, which I think the Wizards are sorely missing right now. So there
True.
is reason to like this trade, I think, if you're Washington, but I don't really feel like it has maybe some of the like some as exciting young players as some of the other trades that we've talked about here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like definitely more has to go back to Wizards, probably draft picks. Um, Terrence Davis is a player that he he can be like streaky, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
when he gets minutes, he can be a really good offensive player.
I agree.
I know Nick Nurse is not the biggest fan of him. He's like another player that's sort of in the doghouse, even though he started last game.
He's had some better games of late, though, I will say. I think he's quietly turning the corner.
Yeah, I think Nick Nurse, the Raptors' identity is 3 and D. So if you're not playing the D, you're not getting the minutes, like I said before.
It's all right.
So
Washington doesn't play D.
yeah, he fit right in.
Amen.
But yeah, Kyle Lowry, if he was on the Clippers,
I think
I
it
think
potentially.
it could put them over the top.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think that easily kind of puts the Clippers right into that like conversation again with the Lakers. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still in the conversation with the Lakers, but as they're currently assembled, I personally just don't see how they're going to beat the Lakers. Honestly,
Mhm.
the Lakers are still my title favorite. I think they're taking this championship. I think a Kyle Lowry trade, I don't know if that necessarily changes that because playoff LeBron is still playoff LeBron, but it definitely, if you're the Clippers, it increases your chances a lot.
Yeah, like not to put a knock on Kawhi, but like obviously he won us a chip. I'm thankful, but I'm just saying, Kawhi he performs much better alongside a playmaker
Mm-hmm.
and someone who is a true leader, a vocal leader like Kyle Lowry,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Kawhi is a player that leads by example, and he's had leaders in San Antonio, obviously with like Tim Duncan and their veteran players,
Mm-hmm.
obviously with the Raptors. So I feel like that's the main thing the Clippers are missing right now. They don't have a true playmaker, and I don't think they have a true leader. So I think Lowry fits both. So I think that would put them over the top.
I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, listen, when Paul George is the guy that's being the vocal leader on your team, you could do better. You could do a lot better. And you could do a lot worse than Kyle Lowry. I think he's definitely one of the better leaders in the NBA right now. All right, man. Bring us home. Okay.
Here's my last one. Okay, so in this deal, the Raptors get Beal, like of course, and then they managed to get two first round picks from the Mavericks and two first round picks from the Raptors, all unprotected. That's like great value. That's more unprotected than James Harden. And they get two players that are kind of placeholders or they could flip. Josh Richardson has been kind of disappointing. It looks like the 76ers like swindled them in that deal for Seth Curry. And yeah, the Mavericks are really underperforming right now. And Luca even said they need some leadership and they need effort. And as great as Luca is, him and Porzingis are not really great defensive players. So I think they need a leader to bring in all that offensive talent because they were ranked like number one in offense last year. I think they just need like a leader to guide them, and I feel like Lowry could make them go like way up the standings.
Hmm. I'm not going to lie to you. I was also looking at, when I was putting packages together, I was looking at a Mavericks deal as well because I would love the fit of Kyle Lowry on Dallas, with Luca and with KP. My one thing was I was trying to build something around Jalen Brunson so the Wizards could get like a good young player to be excited about. I think
Yeah, you could do that.
I think four unprotected picks is something to be really excited about. Plus, you have the expiring contract of James Johnson, which is also great. Maybe
Hmm.
maybe the Raptors kick like, I don't know, Terrence Davis into this trade or something to at least give some semblance of a young player to the
Yeah, that could
Wizards.
happen.
And honestly, I'd be all for it. I think that would be a deal where more or less everybody in it makes out pretty damn well.
Yeah, this is like you said, like from the previous trade that I did, like this is one that kind of puts things more together. It like gets us a guard in, gets us a guard out.
Mm-hmm.
So then we would focus more on the center position.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be like a previous, like a future video, I mean, but you
Mm.
never know. Like the Cavs, there's rumors of like Love or Drummond being bought out. Could be your solution.
Oh man, I swear to God, if Drummond ends up on the Brooklyn Nets, I'm done with this league. all of that, all of that just to still lose to LeBron James in the NBA Finals. uh,
I saw that every time LeBron James wins a chip, like the super teams are formed. He wins it in Cleveland, and then they have to have a super. KD has to go to the Warriors, and then he wins it last year, and now like the Nets are loading up big time.
I think the worst one by far was definitely the LA Lakers super team that they tried to put together to compete with the Heat way back in the day. And I mean, like people were excited about it at first, but then like when you take a closer look at that team, it's just like, man, that's a lot of old players, and it just didn't work out. You could say the same thing about the Brooklyn Nets way back in the day, but we've gone through some of the packages. I think there's been a lot of good ones that should be considered. Now, why does Bradley? What excites you about Bradley Beal? I know what excites me personally about Bradley Beal potentially being a Raptor, but like, what really does it for you? Is it the closer? Because I feel like that's where me and you are kind of thinking on the same page.
Yeah, I feel like when we saw how good Kawhi was, although Bradley Beal is not near the defensive player that Kawhi is,
No, not even
I feel
close.
like yeah, he might even be like a better pure scorer though. And the Raptors have shown that they can build a great supporting cast around a superstar player. So I think like the hardest thing to find is that number one option. And like Bradley Beal has the possibility to be a number one option on a good team, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might say it's like empty stats, but I see a little bit more upside in Bradley Beal's game, just how he can score like three ways. Like he can score in the paint, mid range, three free throws. He doesn't have any holes really offensively. So I feel like, I was saying to my friend also, the Raptors are down bad when we're like praising Utah Watanabe.
Hey man,
like I'm
he's been balling. Come on, did you see his
I'm
last game?
I'm sorry, but like if a career high 12 points is what we're getting excited about, like we're down bad. I'm sorry.
Oh man, I mean, to go back to what you were saying about Beal, I don't. I think in a perfect scenario, Beal isn't the number one on our team, but at the same time, I think if you have a combination of say Pascal and Beal, I think that combination kind of almost equates to a really good number one or like a good number one because I think Pascal can give it to you down low. Beal can give it to you on the perimeter and create his own shot. I think that works really well if you're the Raptors. Plus, you still have Fred with them as well, who can get his three,
Yeah.
who can play make, and is obviously a great defender. I really hope that, on any team that Bradley Beal goes to where he doesn't have as huge of an offensive load, he starts playing defense again, because that's obviously the one kind of red flag I see about
Mhm.
any team taking Beal. But I really do genuinely think it is an effort thing. And I think it is one of those things where it's like, hey, when you're scoring 40 points, grabbing 8 rebounds, 7 assists, whatever, and still losing the game, what effort do you have left to get to the defensive side? Like you even saw this kind of stuff with, not that I'm complaining these players side by side by any means, but there were years in Cleveland where LeBron James was taking such a huge load offensively in his later years that like, especially in the 2018 year where like they just didn't really have anybody else, that he just was not interested in playing defense. It's a thing that
Yeah.
happens. It definitely does.
I feel like, yeah, he definitely would play better defensively if he had less pressure offensively because the Raptors have more weapons, of course, than the Wizards. Um, Also, another thing about Bradley Beal is that he's definitely an underrated passer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when John Wall was still on the team and when he was like out, like he was a lot of the time, he slid into that point guard role and was racking up the assists. So I feel like we wouldn't have to worry too much about chemistry. I feel like he would seem more seamlessly fit in. Um, yeah, so I feel like it wouldn't take away too many shots from the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just think it would be a decent fit.
I agree. Like the fit is definitely it's seamless. Beal just feels like a guy that would work in this offense, especially obviously his ability to be the go-to scorer, I think would be huge for the Raptors. What I find funny about this, I just want to touch upon it briefly before we move on, is to me, Bradley Beal's game reminds me a lot of diet James Harden. And I just find it funny that Raptors fans were so against, any potential. I don't want to say all of Raptors fans. There were a lot of Raptors fans, though, that were so against the idea of trading for James Harden. And are very for the idea of trading for Bradley Beal. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, but man, their play styles are so damn similar. And hell,
It's because of the media.
yeah, like I find it hilarious that like obviously now that he's on Brooklyn, Harden is actually the one that's been sacrificing the most out of anybody on that team.
Yeah.
Like his shot attempts are down. He's playing good active defense. He's moving off the ball again, which is definitely not something that we saw in Houston super often. But like he's doing it all, and I just find it hilarious that like again like Bradley Beal and James Harden are such similar players to me, and I just find it kind of funny that a lot of Raptors fans were so against James Harden but are so for Bradley Beal.
Yeah. Like I've had James Harden on my fantasy team this whole year and so I've been watching some of the Brooklyn Nets games and I've like noticed I'm like I'll see like James Harden has like 5 points going almost to the end of the second quarter. I'm like, what the heck's going on?
Mm,
Like this isn't James Harden. And
mm,
it's because he's sacrificing. He's not really shooting. He lets Kyrie and KD get their shots early. And then if you notice in like the third or fourth quarter, he sort of starts shooting more and getting his ISOs in and getting like closing out the game. So
mhm.
I don't know like if that's part of the strategy. It seems like it because that's what I've noticed. But yeah, the Nets are starting to figure it out. On a side note, 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah. Oh my God. And the thing for Harden, which I think makes it seamless before we kind of get back on track, is I think Harden is definitely one of those players that could like heat up in an instant. So he very much so kind of plays to that in Brooklyn, where he uses his tremendous passing ability to kind of set Kyrie and KD up early, and then he obviously still does that throughout the game. But like the later you get into the game, the more Harden kind of picks his spots where he's like, "All right, I'm gonna go get my own buckets right now."
Mhm.
But anyways, how much better do you think the Raptors would be with Bradley Beal on the team? Like, what's the jump that we should be expecting here?
Well, the problem I've had with the Raptors this whole year is that um, we're too good to be bad and we're not good enough to be good. You know what I mean? So when it's all said and done, say we don't make any changes, right?
Mhm.
I think we'll be around that at least 7 or 8 spot. That's not really unrealistic. Like the teams we need to catch is like the Cleveland Cavaliers and like the Knicks. Like it's definitely doable, even though they're better. And I think they will if they didn't. But then at the same time, what's the use of losing in the first round to 76ers or the Bucks? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So if we add a Bradley Beal, it definitely gives us a chance, I feel, against anyone. Still definitely needs some more trades to solidify the center position and the depth, but it definitely would be a really big step in the right direction towards winning.
Hmm. I definitely agree with you where you never want to be that team in the middle. It's
It's
just,
the worst.
I agree. It's such a bad spot to be because, like you were saying, you're not bad enough to really get some of the best prospects in the draft. But at the same time, you're not good enough to like compete for anything serious. So I think adding, in this scenario at least, if you're adding Bradley Beal, then hopefully making another trade afterwards. Well, let me just start off. If you're just adding Bradley Beal alone, I think it takes the Raptors to a level under, say, like the Bucks, the Nets,
Hmm.
and the Sixers. I think it puts them kind of like around the Celtics level in terms of what you can see out of this team. Because Fred VanVleet was talking about this, I think, literally yesterday, or it was a quote this morning where he was talking about the fact that they're doing a lot of the right stuff. They're playing good basketball. They've just ended up missing on like one or two key things that have lost
Hmm.
the game. And I think primarily, like we've talked about it so much, but it is honestly such a big focal point. The Raptors need a closer. They need somebody that's going to go out there at the end of the game and just like say, get out of my way. I'm going to go get us 2 points, 3 points, whatever. Bradley Beal fits that role. And again, good passer, hopefully recaptures his defense once he's back on the Raptors. It's a I think it is such a great fit for the Raptors. I really do think it would elevate them kind of to around the 4 or the 5 seed. And if they can find another trade after that where they get some help at the big man
Hmm.
spot, I think they could easily compete for the East title. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but I think they can at least be in the conversation with the Nets,
Yeah.
with the Bucks, with the Sixers.
If Drummond is bought out, we definitely need to put our hat in the ring for that. Um, but yeah, going back to like you never want to be in that mediocre state. Like look at the Orlando Magic. I swear they've been like the 6, 7, 8 seed for so long now, and they can't get out of it. It's like they're mediocre purgatory. So
Hey
you
man,
need to either you need to choose to sell or go for it. You can't be in between.
hey man, at least they got a prospect that has his own song.
Oh
uh
God.
which still reminds me, I'm still fully on the Mo Bamba to Toronto train. I would 100% be for that trade.
That would be cool even if it didn't work out, just for the name.
Oh man, honestly though, I would happily trade like I don't want to say I don't know like Malachi TD or something just to get Bamba and kick the tires on whether or not they could turn him into like everything he can be because obviously the potential is there. He just
Mhm.
hasn't been brought up properly because well, I think the Magic figured that they would kind of replace Vucevic with Mo Bamba eventually, and then Vucevic just ended up getting so much better, and they were just like, well, damn, he's just kind of like in terms of Bamba, he's just kind of there now.
Yeah. And also the thing that's been on my mind this whole time now, I can already see since I put a Pascal Siakam trade in there. Trust me, I don't want to trade Pascal Siakam. But if it gets you Bradley Beal, like if it has to be done, it has to be done. Like we said, we've thought of other ways to do it without giving up Pascal Siakam. So
Mhm.
I just don't want to see that in the comments.
Oh man,
Will come for me.
oh man, no, no, no. You got to be prepared. These comments are not going to be kind. They're going to be talking about how
Even with Kyle Lowry, they're probably still gonna come with us.
oh man, like there honestly, I feel like anytime you talk about trades, which is always so weird to me because again, like I don't care which direction it is. Like the main point I think that we've touched upon in this video is you either want to be so bad that you're gonna get a great asset in terms of draft, or you're good enough to compete for something relevant like for an NBA championship. The Raptors are in that awkward position right now where they are neither. And I don't
Mm.
care whether or not they trade guys away to and get themselves assets to compete this year, or whether or not they mail it in, they trade Kyle to a contender so he can have a chance for another ring, um, and whoever else to just build up draft assets. I don't care which it is. I just want them to go one direction or the other.
Exactly.
They're stuck in no man's land right now, and
I just want a direction.
it's the worst place to be in the NBA. It's I want out, man. I want out.
That's why I don't even know how to feel if when the Raptors win. I'm like, what are we doing? Is this win helpful? Is it not? Like, I don't know how to feel. It's playing with my emotions.
I know what you mean. Like there's moments where I sit there and I'm just like, oh cool, we got the W. But then again, I sit there and I'm just like, man, but did we really like do we want to be getting W's right now? Should I be cheering for them to make the playoffs?
Yeah.
Or do I want to fade for Cade? Because I'm gonna be honest, I think I would personally fade I would rather fade for Cade, but I don't know. Like it's such a touchy topic with Raptors fans right now, and like it's so divisive. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't care what direction they go in. I just want them to either lock in on trying to win this year, or and being competitive, or mail it in, get draft
Yeah.
capital, call it a day.
Yeah. Just going back to like the trades, like for the cap to work out, if people are gonna say like just like, oh, Norman Powell and Terrence Davis for Beal or something, it's like it doesn't work like that. Like the caps don't work out
Mhm.
unless it's like a really complicated 3-team trade and we need to sacrifice like all the picks. I don't think you're gonna get them without giving up Kyle Lowry or Siakam.
Yeah, for sure. And like as I was kind of briefly touching upon, I just think I need to be as clear about this as possible. With current restrictions, if say a trade were to go down tomorrow, Van Vliet is unmovable, Aaron Baines is unmovable, Chris Boucher, OG you can move, but like you have to jump through hoops. DeAndre Bembry,
Yeah.
like there's just so many guys on this roster right now that just can't be moved because of like either recently signed restrictions or salary increase restrictions. They just can't be moved. So before
Yeah.
somebody says, why aren't we trading Baines? Well, because we can't until like February. So
Yeah, and also he has no value, so Baines and Powell ain't gonna get it done for Beal. I'm sorry.
What do you mean? Aaron Baines official fan account comes with it. That's more than worth the value.
Oh damn.
I will say though, while I'm here, just because I want to briefly touch upon it, I know we're kind of off track, but for those Raptors fans that came at official Baines fan account, why? Just why? What were you hoping to accomplish with that?
Let him be.
Yeah, I don't understand. Just like, listen, has Aaron Baines been a disappointment? Yes. I don't think anybody expected him to be Serge Ibaka, but I think people like myself included at least thought he could admirably fill in for somebody like Marc Gasol that was definitely past his prime anyways. He hasn't. He's had better games of late, but like he hasn't. But that's no reason to go attack a freaking fan account on,
Yeah.
on Twitter. Like, what are you accomplishing? I just, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think he has more followers than actual Aaron Baines.
I wouldn't be surprised. I follow that account. I think he's hilarious.